The Midlands Today Show with Will Faulkner.
Midlands 103.
Everything you know about biology and evolution could be about to change. What if life on Earth didn't originate here but arrived from outer space? Well, the theory isn't exactly a new one, and movies such as Prometheus have added to the intrigue, but scientists from the University of Sheffield may have found evidence to support the case. Seanie Morris is secretary of the Midlands Astronomy Club. Seanie, good morning.
Good morning to you, Will.
It doesn't sound very sexy when I put it like this, that a team made the discovery by sending a balloon high into the stratosphere, but essentially that's what they did.
That's right, and you're right, it doesn't sound very sexy or high-tech, but the method is very, very simple. A helium-filled balloon would rise to the atmosphere very, very quickly, and it's very inexpensive as well. What happens with this balloon in question is that it would have a series of biological detectors. Now, the detectors themselves are not electronic. There would be like filters and sponges and organic compounds that would have a sticky coating on them for things to stick to them. And when the balloon would come down, it would pop, and then the containers themselves, as a cluster, would just come to Earth, are collected and brought to a lab. What the University of Sheffield scientists have found were some organic compounds that would be expected in the atmosphere, but one in particular, a very big one, they haven't said what size this is, but just to say that it is abnormally large, was detected at a height in our atmosphere which would kind of put it in limbo. It would be too high to have been brought up by any of Earth's currents. It seems too low to almost have been brought in from outer space, but it is deemed that that is where it has come from.
Well, could there be another explanation? Perhaps did a volcano erupt and catapulted loads of matter into the atmosphere?
That would happen, but they say that considering that no severe eruption with that kind of a power has happened in nearly 3 years, they're very determined to conclude that this is in fact spaceborne.
So how significant is the discovery in that? Are we talking about very simple organisms, or is it a sign of something more advanced?
They have not gone on to say to what level this organism or organic compound is. I'm reckoning that it's not necessarily an organism at all, but just that it's an organic compound, which there are many in the upper atmosphere. How they usually come about into our atmosphere would be the burning up of meteors. And it has long been suspected that a theory called panspermia, that life is everywhere in the universe, first suggested by Chandra Wickramasinghe and Fred Hoyle back in the 50s, and that Earth's early history, when the solar system was still forming, it had a period of heavy bombardment by comets, and these comets brought these organic compounds to us. And hence, with conditions like water, heat, lightning, and other sulfites, organics, and things like that, life was able to spawn from that. We know now that comets do harbour this kind of material because probes that have been sent, like Stardust, which collided with Sept 2 in 2006, was able to bring back some samples that show the same organic compounds present in the comet Wild 2 as what we have here on Earth. So that's how the connection has been made. But now we're catching it in our atmosphere to show that even when meteors burn up, they're leaving behind these deposits, and we're even able to detect that high up in the atmosphere.
Is it entirely credible insofar as presumably anything built on Earth, launched from Earth, runs the risk of being contaminated by organic matter on Earth?
It is possible. I mean, an awful lot of the probes that would have been sent to Mars and Venus would have been gone through a very strict contamination process. But even that would not be flawless. A good example of this was the Viking landers, Vikings 1 and 2, which landed on Mars in the mid-70s. And it was found on one of them, which did an experiment by scooping some soil, bringing it back into a chamber, and applying some radiation and heating it up, and that, seeing what was given off in terms of smoke, if you like, had detected organic compounds. But it was also deduced that the chamber that was used still had earthbound or earthborne contaminants, and they couldn't conclusively at that time say for certain that the compounds were found were Martian-based. So it does happen that even though there is a rigorous method of sanitizing everything that's used on spacecraft as they go out, there's also that chance that there's going to be a little bit of contamination brought up with it.
Our guest on Midlands 103 this morning is Seanie Morris. He's Secretary of the Midlands Astronomy Club. And if we can just shift gears for a second away from this discovery by the University of Sheffield. You mentioned Mars. Some news about the Mars rover Curiosity in that it has not found methane in the planet's atmosphere. And that would have been one strong indicator of life, not necessarily now, but once upon a time.
That is true. Methane, usually, as I call it, your fart gas. Is given off by...
That's what cows tend to emit and are causing global warming.
That's right. So it's a byproduct of biological breakdown. Material that gets broken down via our processes within ourselves or through rot in the ground. Methane is released. So when you've got methane in abundance, it would show that there had to have been some sort of organic breakdown through a process like respiration or digestion or digestion to have given off this gas. Now, there are some bodies in the atmosphere, in the solar system, that have methane. The biggest one that we know of today that is very promising is Saturn's biggest moon, Titan, which Huygens had discovered was abundant in hydrocarbons, methane, traces of oxygen and hydrogen. And now we do know that there probably was not any life down there, but we haven't been down there to check for fossil records or things like that. The fact that there is no trace in Mars indicates that there has been little or no life in the past. Does not rule out the existence of water. It doesn't mean that if you had water, you had life. So it kind of still produces a bit more of a bigger equation as to what Mars' previous history was like.
So what next for Curiosity? Does it have anything left to do?
It's a very short-term exploratory mission, in essence. When you think about Spirit and Opportunity, that are rovers that have been there for over 7 years and are still going strong. But there are some future missions to be sent to Mars to detect even drilling further down into the soil. There are mapping missions which have a potentially even better radar to scan from orbit what the internal crust structure of Mars is like. Because there has been evidence to suggest there's a lot of pack ice frozen in the crust. But to try and find conclusively or even get down into it, it's possible that frozen environment would have held, locked in time, what was there when it frozen in that instant a couple of million years ago, tens of millions of years ago. We just don't know. But that's what we've got to find out. As for Curiosity, it's still in debate what it might do yet. It does have a short-term life. I would just say keep your eyes to the news wires for that one.
Well, if you are curious about astronomy, the Midlands Astronomy Club is very accessible. And Seanie, you might give us details for those who are interested in finding out more.
If they want to find out more, we have our website, of course, which is at midlandsastronomy.com. We meet on the first Tuesday of every month, and it just so happens the 1st of October, our next one, it'll be myself talking about Comet Izon, which is coming into view very soon at the end of October. Will it be the comet of the century that everyone has hoped? We just have to wait and see. I'll have more details on that. And you can also check out the Irish Federation of Astronomical Society's own website, which is at irishastronomy.org, which also has a great forums there where people can register for free if they got questions on how to use their telescopes, want to know this, how to do that, even if they want to know more about Curiosity and Mars and what this discovery by the University of Sheffield will hold. They can ask those questions there and find out more.
Seanie Morris, Secretary of the Midlands Astronomy Club. Always great to talk to you. Thanks for being part of the programme today.
Thank you very much, Will. Good chatting to you.